Welcome to the New York State Halls of Fame podcast. My name is Jeff Cohen, usually along with Leonard Abraham, but he is on assignment. And of course, we have Rennie LaRue, the executive director of the New York State Baseball, Hockey, and Basketball Hall of Fames. Today, we have with us Mike Trimboli, who is the current president of USA Hockey. He has been serving in that role since 2021 and has been reelected for a second three-year term in June 2024. Mr. Trimboli is a native of Massena, New York. As president, he oversees the governing body of ice hockey in the United States, which includes managing various programs and initiatives aimed at growing and promoting the sport. Under his leadership, USA Hockey has focused on player safety. Additionally, he has expressed pride in achievements of Team USA, particularly during international competitions. And yes, that includes the Olympics. He was in Italy cheering on both the USA men's and women's gold medal winning hockey teams. Not only that, he has been a New York State trooper for 31 years. We welcome to the New York State Halls of Fame podcast, Michael Trimboli. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Renee. Glad to be here.
Rennie, why don't you start us off?
Mike, tell us your history. Tell us how you got into hockey, why you love hockey, why you still love hockey. Tell us the humble origins.
Well, I grew up here in Massena, New York, where I currently live. Started on the outdoor rinks here in Massena. We didn't have an indoor facility at the time, so broke in on those outdoor rinks and the cold shacks between shifts, stamping the feet to keep the feet warm and shoveling between the periods to keep the blood flowing. But we did a lot of our competitions and games. We did some practices in some small indoor rinks across southern Ontario. Made a lot of trips over there and been playing. Uh, just fell in love with the game. I mean, a multi-sport athlete. Played growing up. Played soccer as a youth. Played hockey. Played baseball. As I got older, got into football and lacrosse. Transitioned over to those sports, but hockey always just seemed to be the lifeblood. I mean, within the community, football was really big, but hockey was the thing growing up here in Massena, and it's always been a pretty staunch sport here in the blue collar town of Massena. And as I got older, I got involved giving back to the organization that brought me up, Massena Minor Hockey, doing some coaching. My dad was the president of Massena Minor Hockey for a number of years and elevated himself through the administration in New York State a little bit. And just remember him saying, if you don't like what's going on, become part of the solution. Don't sit back and complain about it. Get involved, find out what's going on, and become part of the solution. So obviously got back into coaching. I was non-ice official for a number of years, all through high school and then into college a little bit. And then when I went on the job with the state police, I stopped officiating at that time, but I never got away from coaching. Always really enjoyed giving back to the youth and watching that next generation grow and develop and come up through the ranks. And I guess probably one of the most satisfaction things that I like to talk about is those kids coming back, talking about their times playing for me. And you're not always going to make everybody happy, but when the majority of them come back and may not have been happy with the coaching at the time, but to say, hey, when that happened, now I get it. Now I understand it. I get 100% what you were talking about, and it's really those life lessons that you taught during coaching has helped me through some points of my life after high school. And they come back and talk about their family and their kids and their jobs and their careers and pivotal points in their lives and challenges that they face to harken back to some of those comments that I made about life and the monster's only as big as you make it and you focus on the next shift, those type of things. But yeah, so the coaching thing has really been the parallel with my career with the state police. I retired 8 years ago, but came on the job back in 1987 and held a bunch of different positions all up through the ranks. And one of the things that I always held true to was I gave up stuff with the state police so I could keep coaching. It was always a question: can I still coach? Would I still be able to coach? Would I still be able to be with the boys and to help out in those organizations? And that was kind of the one thing that I always held on to. I got involved in the administration of New York State amateur hockey in the northern zone. The state split up into 4 different regions: north, central, west, and east, which is down by you guys. Long Island and that area. Um, got involved in the northern section, some small parts of it, administrative wise, and then I got involved in player development. I was coaching a midget team in Massena, and we had a state tournament down at Port Jefferson Station, that area. And between periods or before a game, I can't remember specifically, but I'm outside the locker room, and a gentleman comes up and introduces himself to me by the name of Bill Hall. And come to find out, Bill was a Suffolk County cop, but Bill was also from Potsdam, New York, originally, which is like 20 miles from me. And he grew up in that area, and we hit it off right away. And Bill opened a lot of doors for me in player development, and became a player development coach in summer 15 development camps that were held up at SUNY Potsdam, and did a lot of work with those teams, and ended up coaching national player development teams for the New York district starting in 95 through like 99. And had the opportunity to coach players like Brian Giunta and Brooks Orpik and Ryan Callahan, Robert Esch, Eric Cole, all these guys that had some really, really good careers. And Richie Hansen, Jason Guerrero, these guys are now working for USA Hockey in player ops, player development roles. So just some good touch points there, and you learn. So everything, coaching with other coaches, you learn good stuff, you learn bad stuff, and I always took that stuff back to my teams coaching high school hockey, and it was great opportunities, and that opened doors for me in the administrative side of New York State amateur hockey. And 2005, I got a kick under the table when an election spot opened up for the board of directors to represent New York and the national board, and kind of looked left and right, and people are giving me the nod. And so I raised my hand to run for the position, and ended up winning that election and started on the board of directors with USA Hockey back then. But, I played college lacrosse. Like I said, other sports that I've played have been great as a multi-sport athlete, and how one sport transitions into the other. And the concepts are kind of similar. I've got two boys, two girls. They were all multi-sport athletes, but like I said, everything always came back to hockey. It's just kind of one of those things that the joy, the passion, it's always there. The team sport, the camaraderie, the way that a locker room affects kids and creates that brotherhood for life, and create those experiences that they can take away positively, regardless of what their end of the season record was. And still coach high school hockey to this day, multitasking through everything. I had those parallels. I coached hockey, I did the administration thing, and then I had the state police, and you had to find the balance through there somewhere and maintain that balance, and made sure that I gave my best to everybody. And Dad always said, if you're going to do a job, make sure you're going to be able to do it right, and make sure you're not going to take any shortcuts, and do it properly. Otherwise, don't take on the responsibility, because you'll be cheating yourself and cheating everybody else. It's been a good run. It's been, I got to say, Renee, after getting the call from you, that I never really reflect back on things. I just kind of focus on the next shift and kind of take things as they come. You never really look back at your total body of work, and it's kind of been fun for me to look back at that body of work, because I never really have, because I've always said it's never about me. It's always about the experience that you give to others, and it's been kind of fun.
You mentioned.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Rennie. Go ahead.
it was really an honor to make that phone call, and so the voice in my ear is that of Mike Smith from Potsdam. And Mike is my right-hand guy, has been since the first year. He's been instrumental in so many of the picks we've made. And nobody gets inducted without Mike Smith's stamp of approval. So he's very important to what we do, and he's got quite a history. And he's a wonderful guy. And when we talked about you, he was so happy and so pro your nomination, and he was really together. We celebrated you even before we called you. So
that's great. Thanks.
Yeah, Mike. Do you know Mike? Have you ever met him? No stories about him?
I haven't met him personally, but I mentioned Bill Hall, and Bill and Mike played together growing up. They knew each other growing up, and I've known, of course, I'm a Blackhawks fan, so I know of Mike through his affiliation with the Blackhawks, and I've been a lifelong Blackhawks fan. And
wow.
So yeah, Yeah, no, North Country guy. Gotta love it.
Yeah. Jeff,
So,
a little bit of history. Hockey was invented in Potsdam,
oh,
Jeff.
okay. Not Canada. Okay.
That's
Mike, you
a whole
mentioned,
nother podcast.
yes, you mentioned earlier brotherhood for life. My question was going to be, you know, having coaching all these teams and being the head of USA Hockey. Of all the team sports, I feel like hockey is the one most has the most camaraderie on team because you're going out there. I mean, you're not taking any time off. You're on the ice. You are going full blast. So could you talk about the camaraderie USA Hockey has with their teams?
Well, I mean, it all starts with our Olympic teams and all of our teams that went on the national level. I'd be remiss if I didn't, bring this up right from the get-go here. That doesn't happen organically. All of these players that compete, whether it's in the Olympics or World Championships or, any of our top teams, they started somewhere. They started as a youth player in some organization somewhere in the United States. And there were grassroots leaders and coaches and moms and dads and volunteers that made it fun for them and enabled them to come back year over year and gave them those experiences of wanting to develop and wanting to get better and becoming a good teammate and teaching them the core values that we try to teach at USA Hockey. And not necessarily about the wins and losses, but the experience and the fun factor, especially at the young ages. So, we've got a vast group of grassroots volunteers across the whole United States, our 12 districts and 34 affiliates that either they or people that came before them have done an outstanding job to help grow this game to what it is today. And I tip my hat to them on a repeated basis. It's extremely important. But hockey, I feel is the ultimate team sport. It's guys support guys, girls, any athletes supporting each other, shift by shift on the ice, understanding that you could be down by a few goals, but you got to find a way to come back. That you got to deal with the adversity, and adversity is all part of life. And if you can't handle the adversity or it overcomes you, the moment becomes bigger than you, and you have to be bigger than the moment. And you have to understand that, you can look at all the stats in the world of the team that you're playing, but on that given day, they have to prove that they're better than you. And you have the opportunity to prove that you're better than them. And that's the beauty of sport in general. But the high speed, physicality, grind that everybody goes through and how they support each other through that. It's not you have all your individual sports that people do a great job training for, but you're a 5-person element with a goalie on the ice and everybody moves to everybody else and everybody supports each other and together is what you create the win. It's not one player that's going to go coast to coast all the time anymore. It's about creating systems where everybody's involved and you're creating odd man situations in an even man situation to capitalize on that. And you're teaching those lessons of it's more than one person and that it's bigger than just you. And to instill that and I guess one of the biggest things too is people understanding, and it's hard nowadays, but it's having these athletes understand that everybody's got a role to play. And it might not be the role you want to play, but to be part of this team in this particular game, or even break it down to this particular circumstance, it's not going to be about you, but you're going to play a part in this so that we can be successful. And it's that camaraderie of being in it for everybody and setting the egos aside that has really made us successful at the highest levels these days. And that gets instilled, that has to be instilled, and it should be instilled at the lower levels moving up.
Mike, the epitome of everything you just said is embodied in a young man named Steve Janaszak. And Steve was the backup goalie on the 1980 team. He's being inducted with you. And interestingly, he had won an NCAA championship
Yep.
at the U of Minnesota playing for Herb Brooks.
Yes,
And
for
he
sure.
goes from winning an NCAA Division I championship to being on the Olympic team. And Herb tells him he's not going to play in the Olympics. I don't know if I could have done that. I mean that's the ultimate team sacrifice. And we had Jenny on a couple weeks ago. He was such a gentleman about it. Understood his role with the team. Herb asked him if he wanted to be on the team under those circumstances. Jenny said yes, of course. And those guys on his team, they love him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very familiar with a lot of that. The story. I'm a historian of the game, and I'm a child of 1980, growing up, and that's the pinch me moment of being on the bench with the current gold medal team. But, I mean, knowing Janny, knowing that he played for Herb, won a national championship. How do you think Janny felt when Herb made that statement? I know I'll misquote him, but to win in Lake Placid, it's going to take goaltending. It's going to take great goaltending. And that Jim Craig's a hell of a goalie. Right.
Yeah.
So, but Janny, you're right. The consummate team player. I mean, he knew his role, he understood, but at the same time, I'm sure he was ready to go at a moment's notice.
Yeah.
He was always ready to jump and always ready to go.
Eruzione nominated him, and I had, Jackie O'Callahan, OC, backed him. Phil Ricotta backed him. Everybody that I spoke to, they really love this guy. And that Netflix documentary that's on now,
Mhm.
there was a nice story about him, um, how he met his wife in the Olympic Village, and they're still married. So he said he came out with the biggest win. He's still
Yeah.
married,
Yeah.
had a great life and everything. But I'm real thrilled he's going in with you this year. It's an exceptional class. Andrea Kilborn Hill, from Saranac Lake Placid, won a silver medal in Salt Lake City, I think in '02.
Coached
Um,
her brother.
did you really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
BJ, know the family very well.
Wow. Yeah, she's so nice. And she may be the best women player ever at Princeton.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
we spoke to their coach today, and she still holds, has a great legacy at Princeton as a Tiger. Um, but another guy that I know is Mark McKenna, who we inducted last year,
Yes.
who coaches the sled hockey guys.
Just talked to
And
him last week.
I've met many, many people in three Hall of Fames over 17 years. One of the most impressive human beings I've ever met. Just a great guy. And, he's not in it for the money. He's doing it for love of the game. Tell us about Mark.
Yeah, so I mean, I got to meet Mark, obviously another North Country guy, and got to know him reasonably well, probably about 12, 14 years ago. Obviously, with my role and being involved and the history of the game, I want my players at the high school level to have an appreciation of sled hockey players. And Mark's got that Mountain Warrior group that plays the Fort Drum and all across the North Country. And I had coordinated with him and had some Wounded Warrior jerseys made for my high school team. And we did a Wounded Warrior game each year for a while where we would raise some money for the Wounded Warrior program. We donate our 50-50 and proceeds like that from the game. But we would have that group come in and they would do a static display in the arena lobby of the sleds and talk to anybody that was there for the game. And then between the first and second period, that group would go out on the ice and do a sled hockey demonstration. The one thing that I've always wanted to do, and I haven't done it yet, and I kind of kicked myself because I wanted my youngest son graduated 2 years ago, wanted him to be a part of it, but I wanted to find some time when those guys come in to put my players on it so they could get on the sleds and really get a strong appreciation of not only the balance and how the runners work to distance them for balance, but the upper body strength that it takes. And those athletes make it look so simple, but just I mean it's so fun to watch. I went back for the sled Paralympics. I've been to the World Championships in Buffalo, and it's demolition derby watching those guys play. It's strong contact. It's grinding. They work so hard at what they do, and our teams have been so successful. But Mark's passion for that group, and so humble when you talk to him, so soft spoken. But anytime my team plays over in Canton, usually the group of adult players get on afterwards, and I usually hear a stick hitting the glass somewhere and turn it's Mark saying hi, and always finds time. We were at a benefit golf tournament just earlier this week, and Mark was in the foursome behind me and got a chance to catch up with him. And he had mentioned he was going to be coming to Troy for the event, so that was great to hear.
I obviously I've never met you, and I'd never met Mark. I'd never met Mike Smith. So, we have a diligence process, and I can generally tell, when I'm talking to somebody, what they're about, and I listen very well, and I knew when I met Mark, right away he was a Hall of Fame guy. Like you and Mark and Mike, that's what our mission statement is. That's what we're about, and it's the same in New York State basketball and the same in New York State baseball. We're 17 years old. We've had 37 events total from three sports, and we've had 37 sellouts. There's a lot of magic in that room, and it's funny when we have our event, when Eruzione walks in, or OC or Janney, they bring magic with them when they come. It's infectious. You can touch it. If you walk up and touch the hem of their sleeve, you have this magic that you carry with you. And where were you in 1980, Mike?
So I was a Bantam hockey player, 14 or 15 years old. And we were playing in a tournament up in Canada at the time. And I'll never forget, the games were going on, and we were cutting the pieces of tape and putting USA on our pants for games, and trying to emulate those guys. And it was quite an experience. I wasn't up in Lake Placid for any of it, but my wife's from the Saranac Lake area, and her family were in Lake Placid at the time for the games. And she talks about how crazy it was up there during that time. But a lot of guys that I worked with ultimately talk about the games and how things were done from the state police perspective there, and some of their memories with the team. And then I've gotten to know a lot of the players from the 80 team. They've come up for different events, and they just had their camp up here, the fantasy camp that they've done in their 10th year. Just had that up here, and probably Phil Ricotta was the first guy that I got to know really well, and have maintained a really good relationship with him. And then Buzzy Schneider and Mark Johnson, Baugh Harrington, and a lot of these other guys have been really good. And I've gotten to know Mike reasonably well the last few years with all the different events that we've been to. And just hearing some of the sidebar stories of things that they use the troopers for, to be able to go do different things after hours and help pass the time, from their accommodations at the now prison up in Raybrook, New York. That was the Olympic Village at the time. But
Sure.
but no, it's been a privilege to get to know those guys, and on a personal level. And they're what they did for hockey in the United States is just unbelievable. Just unbelievable, the effect. And not only for hockey in the United States, I mean, obviously speaking to the choir here, but just the way our country was back then, and how things were not in a great position, and the country united around a hockey team. And it's not like it was back then, but I can tell you that as I reflect back on our recent triple gold, that men's game in the morning across the United States, establishments opening up and getting clearance with liquor licenses to be able to bring people in, and whether it was a watch party at someone's house, college bars, hometown bars, just people and their families around a TV set with their kids, watching how sport, in this case hockey, united a nation. I mean, there's some people out there that, like Al Michael said, didn't know a blue line from a clothesline.
Mm-hmm.
But that morning, it was all about USA. And it's just unbelievable. And the result was phenomenal. And just to watch, I can't get enough of watching people, how they enjoyed that game and reacted to it, and just gives me chills all the time.
Yeah, I'm getting chills as you're talking about it as well. I want to ask you about youth hockey, because I go to a couple Islander games a year, and in between the first and second period, I mean, they have the Pee-wees go on the ice and play a little hockey. it's so cute, and they're on the it's be on a National Hockey League ice rink to play for a few minutes. It's got to be a thrill, and talk about how the very young ones grow up until to become hockey players.
Yeah, I mean it's inspiring the next generation. 1980, those guys inspired the next generation, and I'm sure that the numbers of participants in the sport of hockey grew exponentially across the United States. We're in a position now coming off the Olympics where we're hoping to see those growth numbers spurt, and we at USA Hockey have an outstanding relationship with the NHL. They're incredible partners of ours. They help grow the game at every facet, whether it's coaching, officiating, playing, any piece of what we do. They're 100% supportive of us. I'm fortunate enough to on an annual basis to go down and meet with Gary Bettman and Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly down at the offices. Bill's part of our board of directors, so I have more conversations with him about things, and extremely supportive of what we do. And it obviously helps when we have results that we've had lately to help that. But our mission to grow the game across the United States and make it more welcoming and inclusive to as many people as possible. With the NHL Learn to Play program, and they've instituted a street hockey program to help areas that make, because ice is expensive and to get to ice, but just to get a stick in a child's hand to play the game, and now to coordinate and partner with youth organizations within their areas, NHL teams, allowing these players to come out on the ice and experience that. I'm sure for a lot of them, it's got a cool factor, but I don't know if they'll appreciate it as much today as they will probably 10 years from now, to be able to
Hmm.
say, hey, I played at, in an Islanders game or a Rangers game or Blackhawks game or anything like that. I was on the ice and I played out there, and it's cute, it's fun, and it's a great experience for them. And I'm sure it's a great experience for their coaches and moms and dads as well.
Yeah.
So my honest question, um, when you got the call, did you know about us? Did you know about our Hall of Fame?
So honest answer, yeah, no, I did. Um, like I said, there's a lot of organizations across not only New York State but the United States that I've been fortunate enough to familiarize myself with, and some of my fellow coaches from New York State public high school have been inducted in your Hall of Fame. And social media being what it is, you see different things and you're familiar with different things, and you had you inducted the 80 team itself, right, at one point in time
Yes.
coming in,
Yes, the first
and
year, yeah.
yep, you may not recall it, but you reached out and to USA Hockey, myself and Pat Kelleher, about the taking either doing a table or an ad in the book that you do, and things like that. And I was actually going to try to get to that event, and I had something else come up, and I was unable to get there. But so honestly, when you called, I was on another call when you tried the first couple times, and so I got back to you, and it was you introduced yourself, you talked about the Hall of Fame, you gave me all the background on it and everything, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, geez, I wonder who's going in. Probably wants me to buy another table, wants me to put an ad in the magazine for USA Hockey. And so we talked for quite a while, and then you came out and said that I had been nominated, and you welcomed me to the class of 2026. And probably the first thing that came to my mind was, hey, Renee, you probably could have led with that. But no, it was I was
The very
lost
first
for
year,
words.
the very
Yeah,
first
definitely
year we
lost for
flew in
words.
a guy from Denver. Who was the guy? He was one of the assistant coaches for the 80 team, but he was the eye in the sky. Italian
Hmm.
guy from New York City.
Oh, Lou Vero.
Uh,
Louis Vero,
Viero.
probably.
Lou
Yep,
Viero.
Louis
He
Vero. Yeah, he's a New
he was
York
so
guy.
happy to come. He was great that night, and he was a very entertaining and lively speaker.
Yeah, Louis great. A lot of history with Louis Vero. He's a New York guy. He was the coach of the '84 team right after that.
Hmm.
How's he doing now? Have you talked to him at all?
I haven't talked to him much lately, but he's doing well. Had some health issues, but all in all, not too bad.
Mike,
That first year we also, I'm sorry,
okay,
the first year we also inducted OC and Mark Wells, who
Okay.
subsequently passed away.
Yes.
And when Wellesley came, he was so happy. He was sort of one of the forgotten guys from the 80 team, but a loved guy. And his teammates were so happy he got in before he passed. It was one of the better nights of his life, I think.
That's great.
Mike, I've been watching hockey a long time. I remember, there was no helmets at the time when they were playing hockey. I remember that. But as the game got faster and it's becoming more faster, uh, the safety measures have been becoming more and more important. Could you talk about the USA Hockey's involvement with the safety measures?
Well, we have a dedicated safety and protective equipment committee that Doc Stewart, Dr. Michael Stewart heads now. Dr. Alan Asher was the lead on that for a number of years, and unfortunately, he passed a few years ago. But this is a group of a job staying on top of the state of the art safety measures that are out there. Recently, probably the most discussed rule change that we had was the neck laceration protectors and bringing those into play for our youth participants. When I started playing, we didn't wear face masks, and then when I was 10, 11 years old, I started implementing face shields and the wire cages, and then the wire cages became bird cages, and it's kind of been the standard since then. We have the half shields in some of our higher and junior programs as well too. But safety is definitely, we want to make it a safe, as we always say, a safe and welcoming environment, and creating those measures sometimes aren't, it's not probably the thing that people want to hear or see, but it's in the best interest of all of our participants and keeping them as safe as possible. You can't prevent everything, but we can take steps that are necessary to keep our participants as safe as possible. And for a number of years, the neck laceration protectors were recommended, but due to some unfortunate incidences, we made a measured assessment. We weren't knee jerk on it or anything, but made a measured assessment on it. We talked to a lot of companies. As in my roles with USA Hockey, I've also been on the USA Hockey Foundation, our fundraising arm, and we do a lot of grants with that. And part of the grants back when, geez, I'd say probably 10 years ago or so, we were doing grants just for studies on neck laceration protectors, and they do cut tests on all this material. But the one thing that Doc Stewart always talks about is you can't, in a lab, you can't mimic how a skate is going to hit a player, because there's all different angles, there's all different pressure, there's so many different variables. But you can do a straight test on it, but it will never mimic what's going to happen on the ice. So you take all that for granted. So we've kind of been researching these things and looking into stuff, and as the equipment evolves, and like I say, our partners with the NHL and the International Ice Hockey Federation, different things that come up. Doc Stewart also sits on the safety group with the International Ice Hockey Federation, so always involved in those discussions with some top end people, and we try to stay on top of as much of it as we can to keep our game as safe as possible.
What did you think the women were gonna win this year? What was the feeling before the game? Did you like our chances? What was it like when they won?
Yeah, I mean, the game is a game. I talked about it earlier, on any given day, right? I wasn't there for their gold medal game. Um, so I had to manage my high school schedule to be able to still coach the team, because I'm committed to those boys. I'm not going to miss a game. And so I had to create a balance there somewhere. So I made my first trip to Italy, and I watched the first three preliminary round games that the men played, and then the quarterfinal game for the women. Um, and then I had to come back home and coach my team. So the semifinal game and the final game, I was at home. But let me tell you that we we had what's called the rivalry series with Canada with the women, and that's been an annual event leading up to the Olympics. And from the time that we left the selection camp in Lake Placid in the fall and played those games there with like our under 22 team and our U18 team for preparing them, our women's national team played Canada and won every one of those rivalry series games, the four of them, which I think might have been the first time we've ever done that. Just had an outstanding group of athletes on that team, and the coaching staff with John Rivulewski and Sherry Dickerman and Brent Hill and Jason Skiba, Allie Altman with the goalies. Katie Million runs that group from our staff side. They just do a phenomenal job preparing those athletes the best that they can to be successful. And it's definitely a pro environment on that team. But semifinal game, we're good to go, and then it comes down to that final game with Canada, and we're down, and it's 5 minutes to go, and we're down still by that one goal, and pacing throughout my living room, and then we call the timeout, or the situation comes up, and off the face-off, it goes back to Layla Edwards, and she takes that nice shot, and Hillary tips it in, and she gets that record-breaking goal, which was just unbelievable. Now we got a game. There's a little bit of breath of air going there, but you never know what's going to happen. And I tell you, when Taylor Heisey made that nice stretch pass to Megan Keller, and she made that outstanding move in to tuck that backhand home, was just jumping up and down in my living room and screaming, and just me and the dogs, and we're jumping around like crazy, enjoying that win. It was ecstatic. I wish I could have been there. Still had a few games to coach with my team, but yeah, unbelievable, and so happy. And Megan's she's a great human being. We had a women's world championship in Utica a few years back, and every press event that we did, she was more than happy to come and speak on behalf of the team, and just represents everything that we do so well. And as does all those athletes on that team, whether it's Abby Murphy or Carolyn Harvey. She had an outstanding season as a player, and won so many accolades that she deserves so well. But top to bottom, wouldn't want to leave anybody out. But goaltending's just crazy, unbelievable, standing tall in net like that. Back to front, it was great experience. And then went back for the men.
Mike, you mentioned that you have a great relationship with the NHL. What about the women's professional hockey league? I mean, the women's hockey has grown so much. How's that relationship? I'm sure it's very, very well, very good.
Oh, absolutely. Such a great growing league, and they've really taken women's hockey by storm. And we were so happy that they were able to create that professional league and have something of that caliber to help grow and develop the next generation of player, to have an organization like that where a young girl can look and watch and want to aspire to play on one of those teams, and to go and cheer for one of those teams. And we always want them cheering for our country, but to give them something of a professional league to look at, and now you've seen the expansion of that league each year, and how that's grown, and it's been great coaching opportunities for some of our coaches. In the Detroit expansion, Jason Skiba went there and as a head coach, and really proud of what he's done, and give him that opportunity. And it's been really nice. And we meet with the leaders of that league from time to time, and of course you have to manage international breaks for some of these events. So try to work hand in hand and in concert with them. And we brought in one of the representatives from the Professional Women's Hockey League that sits on our international council at USA Hockey. So they have a voice in the room with our international group along with everybody else. And that's really important to us.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, I'm going to switch gears for a minute and talk about your professional career as a state trooper. And I'm going to ask you about those two guys who went AWOL from Dannemora. Were you on that crew that was hunting those guys down?
Yeah, I so in in my career, I was on our what we call it a mobile response team. It's like our SWAT team, special operations group, for a number of years. And one of the gentlemen that went through that basic school with me was our troop commander up here in Troop B at the time. And when that situation happened, as it evolved, um, there was a group of us that kind of were spearheading that entire manhunt. So Chuck Guest was the troop commander up here, and Chuck called me in and had me and a few other guys help with the leadership group as of that entire operation. So it was day in, day out, being up there and the challenges associated with that, and it was a great experience.
Um,
And I mean, it's all woodland. So, I mean, that had to be a really tough predicament to navigate the mountains and the woods.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we brought in resources and other troopers from all around the state, and had an action plan on how to set things up and coordinate to be able to cover as much territory as we could. And it became extremely difficult because it's such a mountainous terrain, and of course there's the rumor and the talk of them not being in the area and different things like that. And we just sat down one night and said, there's nothing that says that they're still here. However, there's nothing that says that they're not still here. So we'll keep doing what we
Right.
do, and we'll keep pursuing the way that we've always done these things, and we'll operate as efficiently as possible to cover as much ground as possible and track down as many leads that we can, and see what we can come up with. And sure enough, doing the things that we did, we were able to reach out. There's several camps up in the area, and whether it's seasonal residences or hunting camps, and had told everybody to check their camps and check their trail cameras and all these other things, and had a gentleman pull up to his camp. And as he pulled up, he thought he saw somebody running out the back door of his camp. And that was the one lead that kind of helped us out tremendously.
good. I'm glad you're up
Great.
there protecting us. That's thank you very much for your service. That's absolutely. Um, Mike, we really appreciate your time. I have one final question for you before I give it over to Rennie. You're from upstate New York, Massena, New York. You have the Sabres in Buffalo. You have the Islanders and Rangers down here on the city. You have the Devils in Jersey. Meanwhile, how did you become a Blackhawks fan?
Die hard. So when I was young, my grandfather drove truck in Canada, and he would get tickets to the Canadian games back in the day, and he would take me up to the games. And as a rivalry of sorts between the two of us, I wasn't going to cheer for the Canadians because he loved them, and I got a very quick affinity for the Blackhawks and Bobby Hull and Stan Mikita and Tony Esposito, and that just Bobby Hull was my guy growing up, and I looked up to, and never left that, and stuck with them for the 49 years of drought, and celebrated hard when they won that first cup with Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews and that whole crew, and then went on to win a couple more. So it was it was a lot of fun in the rivalry with my grandfather, and being able to go up to the Forum and see the games on Atwater, and just that whole experience. And as I got older, and I would go up and watch games a lot, sometimes on my own, and other times go up with friends, and just to experience the building again. And I actually the last year of the Chicago Stadium, the original stadium, I drove out to see a game in the old stadium, and they happened to be playing Montreal, and I was able to experience the anthem and the roar, and live it, and then ended up getting some memorabilia from the stadium after they tore it down. And the great story is my one of my high school players, goaltender, is now and has been the video coach for the Blackhawks.
Oh, okay, good, nice.
So it's a great connection there, and of
Nice.
course getting to have an association with Patrick Kane, being another New York guy. And when I started off in the player development program, he was just coming through the player development program in New York State, and has gone on to such great things now, and set so many records and done so many good things for the sport, and just incentivize the generation, I guess, is a great way to put it.
When I was
Yeah.
My grandfather worked for a company that had season tickets to the Islanders, 1972, their first year. And I was 10 years old, and my grandfather took me, who by the way lived right next door. He took me to a lot of Islander games that year, and became an Islander fan ever since. Was there for the four
Yeah.
cups. It was just tremendous. Rennie, I
Yeah.
leave
So I
it to you. Good. I'm
got
sorry.
my Kane jersey
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
and then got the
Yeah.
little Patrick there.
Ah, okay.
All
Nice.
set up in the basement. So
Nice.
yeah, but no,
I
I mean,
still am a little bit uncomfortable seeing Bobby Orr in a Blackhawks uniform. I never felt right about that. Like, what's he doing not wearing a Bruins jersey, you know?
well, I got to tell you
But
a great story with Bobby. He's got a camp just across the border from where I worked, and had an opportunity to meet him and meet his wife, and as they crossed the border there a few times. Not that I pulled him over, just happened to be at the border when he crossed. But I coached a high school team in another small North Country town, Malone, and the team was very successful that year. Went to their first state final, and Bobby came across one day, and I got talking to him and asked him if he'd be interested in coming to speak to the boys at their banquet. Explained everything that they did, and he was so welcoming. He great gentleman. Said he would come.
wow,
Brought a whole stack of photos. Back then, had the Polaroid Instamatic cameras, and had a
wow,
picture taken with everybody that was there. Signed every picture of everybody. We had a great conversation afterwards, and he went out to his trunk and pulled out a Tops card or whatever it was, trading card of him in a Blackhawks jersey, and
wow,
signed it for me. So,
wow,
great experience there. But you
wow.
talk about the Olympics and the men's and everything else. Just a funny story I like to share with people. Just how trying to do everything and be a part of everything. And my travels with the Olympics, like I said, I went over there 3 times. When I came back and the women won their gold, the men were successful. I kind of looked at my schedule to say, geez, could I make it back? If they got to the gold medal, could I do it? Well, we had our senior game, the final game of the season, on a Saturday afternoon at 1:30. We finished the game at about 4. I got home maybe 4:30, grabbed a bag, drove to the airport in Montreal, caught an 8 o'clock flight, got over to Milan in the morning, got to the hotel, changed, took an Uber to the rink, had the gold medal game right there, in the suite with everybody and all the general managers and staff up there watching the game. Great celebration afterwards, on through the night with the team and everything else, celebrating the gold medal. 3:30 a.m. a car picks me up and I fly back to Massena,
Wow.
all in one fell swoop. And there was people that have told me to this day that how they saw me on TV and then they were like, "Wait a minute, how can he be on TV when he was just coaching here in town yesterday?" So really, really great stories with that and great memories I'll never forget being a part of that, being right there with everybody. And
That
then to go
is
back and have the sled team, complete the hat trick, the gold medal hat trick is just incredible.
that's an amazing feeling. So Jeff and Leonard and I are unashamedly biased New York Islander fans. So I of course we're all supposed to love all our children equally, all our pets equally. But when we do our review of potential induction classes, if you played for the Islanders, gives you a little bit of an inside track.
And you got one this year.
You got one this year, and Mr. Ledecky has been really supportive of our Hall of Fame. He's a great guy, and his our last conversation, he had said, "How do you feel about inducting all 16 Islanders that won all 4 cups?" And I was like, "Wow, gee, that's a nice thought, but I don't really know how I can do that.
Yeah.
16 guys, but like one of our rules is that anybody we induct has to attend to be formally inducted, unless there's a medical condition or family emergency, or there's a legitimate reason why they can't come. Terry Martin this year is being inducted but can't come, and he
Oh,
won
that's too
all
bad.
those championships at Canton.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Such a great man too. That's too bad. I didn't know he wasn't going to be there. Yeah, he's a legacy up here. They got a great statue of him outside of the
Great
rink
guy.
there
And
at SUNY Canton.
have you met him, Terry Martin?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So but when I go down to see the Islanders play, they have that magic with me too. They've always had it. And I think every year they're going to win the Stanley Cup. And 20 games in, we still think they're going to win. 40 games in, maybe a little bit less so. 60 games in, we start to worry a little bit. But only on the last day of the season or whenever they get eliminated is it painfully aware that we're not going to the Cup Finals or the playoffs this year. But
Yeah.
we got spoiled, Jeff?
Yep.
79 to 83. I mean,
Yeah, I
we won
know.
4 cups in a row.
I know.
He's painfully aware, Renee.
Yeah, I was at the parades. I know, down Hempstead Turnpike. I was there. Yeah. Yeah.
We had Billy Smith come last year, and he couldn't have been nicer. And people tell me he's a little bit of a tough guy and everything. And we do all our research, very thorough research, and I know about his career. When he showed up, like he's the guy that you want to be your uncle. He was just so gracious. The year before we had Dennis Potvin, he was even nicer. I couldn't believe it. He stayed in town for a couple of days afterward. I took him to Saratoga. We did mineral baths together. I took him to a friend's house for burgers on the grill. Dennis Potvin couldn't have been nicer. He had so much fun that night. And Mr. Ledecky said, Rennie, can I ask you, like, how did you get Dennis and Billy Smith to come to your event? And I was like, well, I asked them nicely, and they were happy to come. And I said, like, he goes, well, we have a harder time getting them to come to our events. So he goes, you must be doing something right. So they got Pop, and we've also had Bobby Nystrom, who is, one of my favorite Islanders. We had Johnny Tonelli the next year. And so there's a couple things that distinguish our Hall of Fame group's events, and one of them is we strictly enforce a 10-minute speaking limit for all inductees. Make the announcement beforehand. At 10 minutes, I slowly get up from my chair and I come take the mic and you're done, right? So when I tell people think I'm kidding, like, it's funny. Until the first time, it's generally the first speaker hits the 10-minute mark and I go up, I put my arm around you and I get the mic. But we've done that for all three sports. And
I find it hard to believe that you were able to limit Mike Eruzione to 10 minutes.
He got 15. But he was so good.
He's so good.
God.
He is so good.
The other guy that got a little bit more time was John Tonelli. So we had done Nystrom the year before, and Tonelli goes, Rennie, I have to tell you, I'm really shy, and I'm not used to being in front of 300 people and with a microphone. And he goes, I'll be lucky if I can go 5 minutes. I'm like, John, relax, have a sip of water and take it. You'll be fine. So 16 minutes later, he's still talking, and he was great. And I had, God, who's the maven of hockey who lives in Israel now?
Stan Fischler.
Stan Fischler.
Oh.
Stan introduced Tonelli that night, and Stan took like 10 minutes introducing Tonelli. So, but Stan was just tremendous.
Yeah,
Came
really
over
good.
from Israel to come to this dinner, and he could. Oh my God, he's a legendary name. And when Tonelli got up, he got on a roll, and he was great. I saw him at a New York City event the following year for Thurman Munson, and John greeted me like a long-lost brother and said, hey, that was like a great night, better than I expected. He was great. He goes, but Rennie, it ran a little long. I said, John, you spoke for 16, 17 minutes. Yeah, you're why it was long. And he goes, really? I'm like, yeah, it's on YouTube. Go look at the video. But yeah, we Tonelli to Nystrom, right? Jeff, the first Stanley Cup goal.
Yeah.
What a beautiful pass. And I asked Nystrom one after the event's over, Mike, we go to the recovery room lounge right in the hotel, and the after Oscars party is from 8 to 10. And it's really just as much fun as the induction night. and everybody tells stories and gets selfies and stuff. So Nystrom was holding court, and I said, Bob, I love hockey. Um, I'm more of a baseball guy. I played baseball, but in hockey, I said I don't quite grasp why teams dump the puck in the corner. You're willingly giving possession to the other team. You can't score if you don't have the puck. Why would you give the puck away when you're trying to? And I've had guys give me very philosophical answers. Well, it's a game of advantage and blah blah blah. And I said, Bobby, tell me, what am I missing here? And he starts laughing and he goes, if you had John Tonelli on your team and he was going into the corner, he was going to come out with the puck. So he goes,
Yeah.
we had no problem dumping it because Tonelli was going to come out with it. And Jeff, have you watched the videos of Tonelli? Every
Ah,
time he comes out with the puck.
one of my favorite
That's
players.
fantastic.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
Do,
that's
do you?
great.
How do you feel about dumping the puck in?
Well, I mean, the game's changed so much, right? I mean, yeah, nowadays, it's evolved so much to where you get a lot of teams that try to do that trap at the blue line where, they'll have three guys lined up and kind of presenting that wall. And it used to be dumping the puck. Now it's basically either chip and chase or chip and recover. And a lot of times you try to create that outlet pass to the wall and then go with speed, and the guy on the wall will chip it down to you to recover. But you look at it, you've got four or five players going toes north, and you got going against 3-4 players that are toes south. And if you can chip it by them and go with speed and repossess it deep and create that offensive advantage by possession deep in the zone, I mean, that's what you want to have. You want to start with good possession deep for wall play and create your low to high plays from there. So you're going with speed against guys that are skating backwards. Should you should be able to chip that in and be able to recover it first by the time they turn around if you're going with good speed and aren't being held up.
I never saw
Situational.
Herb Brooks never dumped the puck in.
Well,
I
it was a
never
different
saw
game
him
back
do it.
then too. Yeah, it was definitely a different game back then. You didn't have the trapping at the blue line. You were able to do a lot more weaving. Not weaving for the sake of weaving, but doing
Right,
weaving
right,
to create
right.
plays and create odd man situations crossing that blue line for sure. Different
Who's
game.
your favorite hockey player, Mike?
I said Bobby Hull growing up was my guy that I looked up to. Big, strong farm boy and great shot, physical player. Was a presence on the ice and made things happen.
Yeah.
I played golf with him one day. His forearms are like Popeye.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
I,
for
I wouldn't
sure.
want to go up against him. He was a tough player.
Yeah, yeah, definitely iconic.
If you don't mind, I'm going to give a little plug to go to usahockey.com for more information. A lot of information here. You can become a member, the community, the shop. Just go there and check it out. It's a really great website. Michael, thank you for joining us on the New York State's Hall of Fame podcast. This has been really fun. And congratulations on your induction next month to the Hockey Hall of Fame, New York State Hockey Hall of Fame.
Definitely humbled, and I appreciate the opportunity. Looking forward to the event. Thank you, gentlemen.
Can't wait to meet you, Mike.
Absolutely. Thanks for all
Thank
that you
you.
do.
Thank you.